What is good, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Beyond the Junkyard podcast. I am your host, Junkyard James, JYJ, and this is another version that's just me sharing my thoughts about pro wrestling. And I want to talk about my reaction to WrestleMania the day after. This is being recorded on Monday, on my way home from my day job, and I just thought I got a 40-minute ride home. Let me just share my thoughts real quick and get it out, and I'll recap it with K-Dog on Thursday. We'll talk a little bit about it, but I wanted to really share my thought process going into the weekend and exiting the weekend, and where I see what I see in WWE. And before I get into that, though, let's just do some housekeeping. This is essentially audio only. It will be uploaded in some format to YouTube, but this is audio only, so there's not going to be anything on the screen or anything. But check the description and take a listen to all the other podcasts that are all part of the Junkyard Media Group by clicking the link in the description and going to junkyardmediagroup.com. Also, support the podcast. WrestleMania season is over, so we'll have to come up with a new form of ad for our WWE shop affiliate link, but that'll be in the description as well. And if you are a fan of this show and you listen to the audio podcasts, make sure that you like and subscribe and leave a 5-star review and let everybody else know why they should listen to the Beyond the Junkyard podcast. All right, let's jump into it, though. All right, so I came into this weekend not really knowing a whole bunch of story for any show that was taking place in Philadelphia. And Friday night was the first show I watched, and it was Ring of Honor, Supercard of Honor. And, I'm an AEW guy, but, to be quite honest, haven't made time, didn't really want to make time to watch weekly Ring of Honor. I think Ring of Honor is on Thursdays when we do our podcast, and so throughout the rest of the week, I just don't have time or don't make time to do my, due diligence in watching Ring of Honor. And so I came into watching Supercard of Honor completely in the dark on storyline. And let me tell you a few key things about Supercard of Honor. One, I think it was the best show of the weekend. It wasn't perfect. It had its dull moments. Moments I didn't really enjoy. I think the biggest zonk of that show was Tony Khan fired the Tate brothers, which were Dalton Castle's boys, and they replaced them with a bunch of people who obviously were last-minute replacements. And it was goofy and wacky, and it was funny, but I don't know. I wasn't a big fan of that part of the show. But for the most part, the show was great. And 11 years to the date, Mark Briscoe wins the ROH title, World Championship. 11 years to the date that his brother Jay did in the same city, Philadelphia, at the same show, Supercard of Honor, and I think that was a really special moment. A second thing about that show is I have found a deep love for Stardom, and I'm going to have to start watching more Stardom because those girls knocked it out of the park. Momo Kogo on the 0 Hour with Mariah May was fantastic. Mina Shirakawa, Tam Nakano, all the other girls from Stardom that wrestled there. They just work their butts off, and they really have a love for wrestling. And I really enjoyed watching the Stardom women wrestle. And then just the show was great. I really enjoyed that show on Friday. And I come in, and Saturday I watch the majority of NXT Stand and Deliver, and it didn't hit me the way NXT used to hit me. You know what I'm saying? And there were a couple good matches, like that triple threat between Josh Briggs and Dijakovic, and I don't know who, I can't remember his name, the champion, was good, but it was just like, I wanted something special. You know, maybe it's because I've just watched so much wrestling the past 7 years that it's like, when I think of Stand and Deliver, or I think of NXT takeovers, the weekend of WrestleMania, I just come to expect a lot. And a lot of the matches left me kind of, My favorite match of Stand and Deliver was probably the match I was most excited about coming into, Roxanne Perez versus Lyra Valkyria. I think we saw two of the future stars of wrestling this weekend, and they're under the age of 25. We saw Friday night Billy Starks, 19 years old, pull off what may be the greatest fake injury I've seen in quite some time. Never once before in a long time have I seen a fake injury that actually brought me to tears. I was holding on to tears because I thought that Billy Starks legitimately could have ended her career. And she just she worked me so hard, dude. And that was awesome. And then we also saw Roxanne Perez, which is 21. She's the future of the women's division in WWE. And it's a shame that she's still in NXT, but at the same time, she would get bogged down in the main roster of WWE, SmackDown and Raw, between Charlotte and Becky and Bianca and Tiffany and Rhea and the bountiful plenty of all the other women's wrestlers that are on the roster. So maybe it's a good thing she's in NXT. But her match with Valkyria was really good. Dragunov always puts on a pretty decent show. But, again, the show as a whole, it didn't keep me intrigued. And I have a reason for that, and I think it's the same reason WrestleMania didn't hit for me. And because night one of WrestleMania may have been the worst WrestleMania night one or night two or anything. It was one of the worst shows of wrestling I've watched in some time. It was just terrible match after terrible match after terrible match. And then you have the Usos, which could have been, the greatest match WWE has put together. And it was just a super kick fest. And not in the way that, the Young Bucks have a super kick fest, but, in the way of every single match every single move of the match felt like it was a super kick. And it's the super kick fest is great, when you have 1,000 super kicks and you have that super kick party, when it's just in the middle of the match, and that's the only a spot in the match. There's other things going on. The Usos match was just super kick after super kick after super kick after super kick, and there wasn't really a whole lot going on, and the match just kind of ended. I blinked and it was over, and for it being brother versus brother in a highly anticipated match, it really underperformed. in my opinion. I thought Becky and Rhea had a really good match. It was a shame that it started the show because you had terrible match after terrible match after terrible match to follow it that you kind of forgot about the match. And then we get to the main event of night one, which was just so fucking dumb to have Cody take the pin there. I don't know. It didn't hit. I watched the show and I was like waiting for something to, speak to me. And like outside of the Becky versus Rhea match, nothing really spoke to me night one. Night two was miles of a difference better, but it still wasn't great. You know what I mean? Drew and Seth was a pretty good match. Drew gets his moment, and then they immediately have this cash-in with Damian Priest, which I don't see anything special in Damian Priest that he's going to be the champion. You know what I mean? So there's that, right? And so you ruin Drew's moment. Damian Priest is champion, and leaves a little bit of a sour taste to your mouth. And then the ladder match for the... that was the first night, I think. I can't remember the order of night two. But it was just like... there wasn't a match that spoke to me in the way that like matches have spoken to me before. You know what I mean? And Bayley gets her win. I think that... I love Bayley. I really do. But I really think Io Sky should have retained. But obviously WWE is going into an era where they want a predominantly face crowd to be, Cody's the champion, Bayley's the champion. And so you have one show that I think is going to be predominantly built where the baby faces are meant to rule. And then you're going to have the other show where the Judgment Day are going to rule. You have Damian Priest. You have Rhea Ripley. And then there you go. And you get Awesome Truth and Theory and Waller. You have your face and your heel tag team. And so one show is going to be the show where the heels dominate, and one show is going to be the show where the baby faces are in control. And it's this new era that they talk about, right? I guess. And then, obviously, the main event, Cody wins, and what was essentially a Broadway reproduction of Avengers Endgame, where you just bring out past, present, and future, stars from the past, stars from, current day, and stars of the future, and you just, Cody gets to win, and it's just this really cartoonish ending, and I wasn't a fan of it. Like, the wrestling wasn't bad. The storytelling wasn't really bad. It didn't hit with me. Cody gets a win in a match where, he couldn't beat Roman one-on-one? You know what I mean? And see, this is where you take Saturday nights, Cody gets pinned dead center of the ring, right? And so now he looks a little weak, like, oh goodness, Cody lost, can he, right? And then now you have it to where Cody needs The Undertaker and John Cena and Jey Uso to help him win against Roman Reigns, who only really lost because Seth Rollins dressed up as Shield Seth Rollins, and I guess the only weakness that Roman Reigns has is remembering how dominant the Shield was, and that's like the kink in his armor. And it felt really cartoonish. But I think the biggest problem WWE's shows had, and if I had to put them on a star ranking, I watched those 4 shows, night 1 of WrestleMania, night 2 of WrestleMania, Supercard of Honor, and Stand and Deliver. If I had to rank them, it would be, number 1 would be Supercard of Honor at 4.5 stars. Number 2 would be Stand and Deliver at 4 stars. Like, it was a really good show. It just wasn't, like, overall it was a really good show. There was just not a match overall that spoke to me. But overall, the show was good. It was just missing something. Night 2 of WrestleMania would be 3rd place at, like, 3.75 stars. And then Night 1 of WrestleMania was in 4th place at, like, a 2-star. It was really a really bad Night 1. In my opinion. But here's the biggest reason why I think I couldn't get intrigued in the WWE product. Was because you would give a match, and then you would have 20 minutes, 20 minutes of advertisements and commercials in between the match. Now, for Stand and Deliver, it's probably a little bit less than that, but you know what I'm saying. Like, you would have your match, it would fade to commercial, and I felt like I was just watching another, episode of NXT or another episode of Raw or another episode of SmackDown, because you would have your segment, and then you would go to commercial break, have like 10, 15, 20 minutes of ads, and then come back to the next match. And it's like, I'm paying to watch your show. I'm paying to watch your show. And so I don't want commercials. You know what I mean? Like, I understand commercials on television because I'm not paying for your show. But I'm paying, even for a Peacock subscription, I'm paying for this subscription for I'm expecting ads, right? But I'm not expecting 20 minutes of ads after every match. And maybe this is just because, I don't know, I'm a wrestling fan, but I'm not here to watch a Broadway show with corporate sponsorship having to be plugged every 20 minutes. Like, I'm here to watch pro wrestling. Like, and I could only imagine what that crowd had to feel like having to, because they can't watch the commercials that WWE's showing, and so it's like 15, 20 minutes between matches, and you're just kind of like sitting there talking to your buddies. Like, I don't like this style where it just feels like you're force feeding products to me. Your shitty WWE production isn't going to get me to buy Slim Jims. It isn't going to get me to watch Knuckles on Paramount Plus. It isn't going to get me to buy Gin and Juice. It isn't going to get me to buy whatever, Wheatley vodka. Like, I hate the corporatization of the matches. Like, one match being sponsored by Slim Jims would be fine, but every single match WWE put on this weekend had a sponsorship. And this match is sponsored by this, and this match is sponsored. I don't care about your sponsorship. I understand you have corporate sponsors. I know you have obligations. But I don't like it being front and center the entire show. It feels really dumb. It feels really cheesy. It feels like you're, trying to sell me a product outside of wrestling. When I go to watch wrestling, I don't really give a fuck about your corporate sponsors. And watching the show, I hate to get the 20-minute intermissions between each match, because you're getting me into the match and now I'm cooling off and now I have to get warmed back up again. The one thing I loved about Supercard of Honor is you got a match and then you got something else that happened, and it might have, if you had to set up another, you set up something at ringside and you needed to have them break in the action, there's a promo being played or there's a vignette being played, but it's related to the wrestling product. With WWE, a lot of the commercials had no relation to the wrestling product. They weren't vignettes, they weren't backstage promos. It was just corporatized advertisements. And I felt like I was at, like, the Super Bowl. You know what I mean? Where, like, WWE was trying to make this something where advertisers want to pay the big bucks to get their product. No. Where the majority of the fans of the Super Bowl watch mainly because they want to see how good the commercials are. And so WWE wants to create that level of spectacle. But it's not that level of spectacle. And so that's probably the biggest reason I could not get excited about WrestleMania Night 1 or Night 2 or Stand and Deliver, is because it felt extremely mass commercialized. Everything had a product that they were trying to sell. And it's like, well, this match is sponsored by Prime, and there's a big-ass fucking Prime bottle in the middle of the ring. And it's like, I love Prime, but I don't give a fuck about Prime when I'm watching wrestling. You're not going to get me to buy it in that moment. You know what I mean? And so, I don't know, man. The amount of commercials was ridiculous. I think Night 1 was 4 hours long, and an hour and 52 minutes of the show had something to do related to a wrestling match, whether that be in-ring work or an entrance or a promo. Less than half the show. And so more than half the show was advertisements and commercials and stuff not related to the wrestling product. And to me, that's a spit in the face to everybody that bought a ticket. Hey, we're going to have you sit here, and half the show, half the time you're sitting here, we're not going to be wrestling. We're going to be trying to sell you a product. I felt like I was sitting at like the American Marketing Association's like day of presentation, where all the marketing firms come together and show their big marketing products and pitches and all that shit. It was too much. They went overboard. And then the cartoon shit at the end of Night 2. And so overall, like, my overall assumption, my overall belief about WrestleMania 40 is congratulations to Cody Rhodes. But it's not like everybody's making this out to be like it was like the greatest moment in WrestleMania history. Brock Lesnar beating Undertaker at WrestleMania 30 was a bigger moment than Cody Rhodes beating Roman Reigns at WrestleMania 40. Kofi Kingston beating Daniel Bryan at WrestleMania 35 was a bigger moment than WrestleMania 40 Cody Rhodes. Daniel Bryan beating Randy Orton and Batista to win the title and the Yes Movement was a bigger moment. And let me tell you why they're bigger moments. The Brock beating Undertaker and the streak being over was a bigger moment simply because of shock value. Everybody and their fucking mom, and Helen Keller included, could have seen from a mile away that Cody Rhodes was winning this week. That Roman's title was done. I had asked my feelings earlier in the week and last week and leading up to the show that maybe WWE would just say fuck you to the fans and have Cody lose, because that's just a WWE move. But everybody and their mom kind of had the expectation that Cody Rhodes was winning this match. There was no shock value. The biggest pop of the match was when The Undertaker came back. And to me, that says that, like, nobody really was surprised about how the match went. It went the way that everybody kind of fucking figured it was going to go. And so, just based off shock value alone, Undertaker losing to Brock Lesnar is a bigger moment. Daniel Bryan winning the world title just because of just the emotion of the event. That it felt like it was an organic movement, right? Because everybody can say that, oh, it was the fans that changed WWE's mind to have Cody have his moment at WrestleMania, and we were supposed to get Roman versus Rock. I don't fucking think so. I think this was the plan the whole way so that they could kind of artificially create the new quote-unquote yes movement with the we want Cody movement. It was artificially implanted by WWE. This was the plan all along. But it really felt with Daniel Bryan that it was genuinely created by the fans. That Daniel Bryan wasn't supposed to win the title, but because the fans and their emotion, it felt like WWE had to change the plans to get Daniel Bryan the championship. And then just the match in and of itself was so much better than Cody versus Roman 2. Cody versus Roman 1 was a better match. And in my opinion, I could have said if Cody Rhodes would have beaten Roman Reigns at WrestleMania 39 instead of 40, that might have been the biggest moment in WrestleMania history, because there would have been shock value and sentimental value. And it's like, Cody's here. But everybody knew Cody was winning. And so, like, to me, I didn't feel anything. Like, I'm happy Cody is the champion. I'm happy Roman no longer holds the belt. But, like, there wasn't an emotional appeal. There was emotional appeal with Daniel Bryan winning. And then the Kofi Kingston winning, kind of the same thing. There was that emotional appeal, but it was also like a cultural appeal. Like, it felt like finally a non-white wrestler can do something big in wrestling. A black wrestler could reach the top of the mountain at WrestleMania and get their WrestleMania moment. It also had that emotional appeal because I feel it felt like the fans led the Kofi Mania movement. And so I think that's a bigger moment than this past weekend. And so no, and then there's several other moments, at WrestleMania that were so much bigger than this. And I think everybody's overreacting because Cody Rhodes finally won the belt. It wasn't that big of a moment, in my opinion. It was a good moment. Yeah, it was the big Cody fans are going to be crying and emotional for the guy. But I felt like it would have been a bigger moment if he had won last year. And I've been consistent in saying that. I thought Cody should have won last year. To me, this didn't make it seem like Cody was now going to be the face of the company. This felt to me like WWE had no choice but to give Cody the belt because there would have been a riot had Roman won. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like he's the guy that's in the plans. He's just kind of like the guy that has to win to appease the fans for just a brief moment in time. And then Cody's going to have this title run that, I don't know, CM Punk or some, new guy, Braun Breaker or something, and then Cody's going to pass the buck to some new heel that's not Roman Reigns. Like, I could see like a Solo Sikoa trying to fight Cody to get the belt back for the Bloodline or something. I don't know. I think Cody is the face of the company, but they did a very, because of, one, he lost last year, and two, he lost the night before to Roman. Roman pinned him. It felt like, I don't know, it just felt fake. I didn't feel the emotion of the event. You know what I mean? And I think lastly, what I want to talk about is how AEW played a very big part in WrestleMania weekend without really trying to play a big part in WrestleMania weekend. The entire goddamn weekend, WWE took every opportunity that they could to take shot after shot after shot after shot at AEW. It started with that CM Punk interview, right? And then we get like shots from Triple H saying like, if you don't want to grind and you only want to work, a light schedule and not, work every day to be good, we don't want you in WWE. Coping because he lost Will Ospreay and Kazuchika Okada. And then we get like Jade Cargill saying that when it comes to her, she don't have time to build a company, that she needs to be in an already established company, and just like taking shots at AEW there. And then we get to the weekend and like Pat McAfee was talking to Dom and Rhea and saying like, you think you're going to cut Dom off? And, if he leaves here, he'd probably work for the other guy with 600 people in the crowd taking shots there. And then we get like Michael Cole, taking shots and saying that like CM Punk is the guy all the internet marks want to talk about or something like that, some bullshit. And then just time after time after time after time after time, ending in Corey Graves' final statement before WrestleMania went off the air, him saying pro wrestling is back. And it made me sick to hear him say that. Because pro wrestling has been back since 2019. When AEW was created as an alternative to this bullshit that Vince McMahon and Triple H and everybody were pushing at this time. The sports entertainment crap. And now you just want to forget Vince McMahon, kind of whitewash his scandals, forget that he existed. You're going to Chris Benoit the motherfucker and act like nothing ever happened and that you're not held responsible for these, sexual misconduct bullshit. And so you're going to take every opportunity you can to take shot after shot after shot after shot after shot at AEW. But when Tony Khan says, you know what, I'm going to air the all-in footage. Oh, Tony, you should be the bigger man and just forget about it. You know what I mean, man? Like, oh, why you gotta hold grudges, Tony? Why you gotta talk shit, Tony? But, WWE can take shot after shot after shot at AEW, but AEW shoots back. And Tony Khan's the bad guy. AEW's the bad guy. We're supposed to just let the bigger, badder bully just bully us into submission and we're not supposed to fight back. Like, it's bullshit. It's bullshit. Let me tell you something, folks. If you want pro wrestling, AEW and Ring of Honor and TNA and Stardom and New Japan and Triple A, CMLL, that's where you go. I don't care if WWE starts using the phrase pro wrestling again. It's not pro wrestling, it's sports entertainment. They're not going to change the product. They're not going to change the formula because that's the formula that made them the most money. They're not going to be a pro wrestling company. If WrestleMania weekend was their version of pro wrestling, then I will gladly stick with AEW's version of pro wrestling. Because WWE did a piss poor job at pro wrestling. And look, y'all can like whatever the goddamn fuck you want to like. But I was not entertained whatsoever this weekend. And someone asked me this morning, are you excited for Monday? No. I'm going to be doing homework. tonight. I'm not going to watch Monday Night Raw. There's no intrigue to Monday Night Raw for me. I'm just going to sit there and watch them bloviate about how it's the Paul Levesque era, it's the Triple H era, it's a new era. Let's show you 8,000 more hours of commercials and bloviate about how we're the better company and this blah, blah, blah. No. I'll catch the highlights Tuesday morning. I'm not going to sit through it. There's no intrigue. Aren't you excited for the surprise? No. There was nothing of intrigue. We're going to have an hour worth of Cody Rhodes crying about Papa being proud. It's not intriguing. And maybe it's intriguing to you. And you're listening to this and you're thinking that I'm just some mark or a hater. And you're free to think that. And maybe it is intriguing to you and you're free to feel intrigued. I'm not telling you to hate WWE. I'm just saying I hate WWE. I hate the product. It's so boring. There's no action. There's no storytelling in the ring. It's like the story is this, very important, but they can't tell a story in the ring. You have to add all this cinematic bullshit to tell the story. And it's like, we come out here and Eddie Kingston and Mark Briscoe puts on a goddamn great main event for Supercard of Honor. And the only backstory we get is that Eddie and Mark Briscoe respect the shit out of each other. And Eddie's going to give Mark a chance to win the title he hasn't been able to win. And they beat the living fuck out of each other in the ring. There's no interference. There's none of that. It's just two men that respect each other so much. They're going to fight each other, and best man win. And at the end of the day, Mark Briscoe wins, and Eddie gives him a hug, and they all hug it out, and they still respect each other. That's the kind of shit that I want to see. I don't have to have some Hollywood production. It takes very little to pique my interest. But when you try to overdo it, you lose me as a fan. When you try to exaggerate a storyline, you lose my interest. I don't need Hollywood. I don't need big budget production. Give me a simple story. Tell me why they're fighting, and let them tell the story in the goddamn ring. I don't need 6 weeks of backstory and a history lesson on how they were third cousins once removed through blood marriage. This is wrestler A, this is wrestler B. Wrestler A and wrestler B have a beef because of something, and they beat the living tar out of each other, and let the best man or woman win the goddamn match. And so let me tell you this. I'm excited for Wednesday. I can't wait for Dynamite. We're 2 or so weeks away from Dynasty. We're going to see Swerve versus Joe. And we're going to see Bryan Danielson versus Will Ospreay. And we're going to see Tony Storm fight Thunder Rosa. And we're going to see the Young Bucks fight FTR. And it's going to be a great night of wrestling. Pro wrestling. And I can't wait. But let me know in the comments or on the Discord. You can check the Discord out at junkyardmediagroup.com and click the link there. Let me know what you guys think. Am I over-exaggerating? Am I seeing this the wrong way? Tell me what you think. Hit the like button. Leave us a 5-star review in the comments. Let me know what you think. Was this a good Mania? Did you enjoy WrestleMania weekend? What shows did you watch? There was a lot of shows in Philadelphia this week. Were you there in person? Maybe it was better in the stadium, but at home it was terrible, at least in my opinion. Were you there? Did you see any shows? How many, did you support the indie promotions? Leave us a 5-star review, like, share, comment, follow the social medias. They're all listed at junkyardmediagroup.com. Remember, we're a WWE shop affiliate partner. Link in the description to help you get some WWE merch, and you can help support the podcast along the way. Remember, at the end of the month, we're doing a NFL draft live stream with the guys formerly known as the Calling Audibles podcast here on Junkyard Media Group's YouTube channel. But other than that, guys, that's just about all I have to say right now on this issue. I'll see you on the live stream on Thursday with K-Dog. We'll talk some AEW and WWE WrestleMania stuff. I'll recap my thoughts. But until next time, folks, this has been another episode of the Beyond the Junkyard podcast. We'll talk to you soon on the other side.